Welcome to another Temple of Wood, this one in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, world headquarters for American Woodworker magazine. And this is where the staff test tools and woodworking accessories for the magazine articles. Clamps to the table edge, and each side can be fine-tuned. A few years later, a new version. They moved the router to the center of the table, provided a groove for a miter gauge, simplified the fence, and devised a little bit better dust collection. But what's unique about the new version is the way you adjust. With the top unclamped, it pulls right off, and you can now see a plenum where the wood chips are sucked through the bottom area and out through a hose hooked up to your shop vac. Now, if you don't want to take the whole station, you can remove just and all my accessories and bit sets like this door making set and this sash making set. Now, I did include a groove for my miter gauge and a fully adjustable fence. Now, one change that I made on the fence is to make the back of it really high right over the center so that I can install a feather board if I have to hold the stock tight to the table. And of course, it does have vacuum pickup. Now, I want to get started today by building the carcass. But before we use any power tools, let's take a moment to talk about shop. Together tightly, and I'll secure it with a 4-penny finish nail, toe-nailed in. Now I can attach the baffle to the interior vertical panels. This makes part of the dust collection system. Get the cabinet in place. And I'm putting some marks to cut some slots for biscuits, which will support the shelf. Now, getting this many biscuits to line up with this many holes will take a little bit of fooling around. That's good. Wood strips attached with glue and brads. Now, I've just made a kerf cut in the top piece of the face frame. And that kerf is right on the underside of the piece, and it receives this plexi insert, which is part of the dust collection system. I also want to install a couple cleats against which the insert sits. This oak strip cleans up the back edges of the carcass. Now we're ready to start building the storage drawers, and I'll start with the lower one. The first thing is to rabbet the draw front 15/16 by 3/8. Now this dado in the draw front is for the divider. And this is the corresponding dado in the back of the drawer. Now this dado in the side piece receives wood, and the ends are rabbeted to fit into the carcass, and the bottom is rabbeted to receive the shelf. The shelf is made up of 2 pieces of plywood, a 3/4 inch piece and a 1/4 inch piece. I drill the holes for the bit through the 3/4 piece and then back it with the 1/4 inch. It's a lot easier to drill the holes through several shelves at once. So I've clamped 4 together, and I'm using a bit that's just a little bit bigger than a 1/2 inch. Well, now I've switched to a 9/32 inch diameter bit, and that'll make the holes for our 1/4 inch shank router bits. Well, while we're here at the drill press, we might as well drill those 1/4 inch holes for the shaker knobs. That way they'll be nice and straight. Now I just nail on the backer board. That's all there is to it. Now to put them together, a little bit of that tough glue and a couple brads. Now I applied the temporary cleats with a little bit of hot glue. Now we're ready to make the rabbet. The template was very carefully made to be 9¼ inches by 12¼ inches, which is a 1/4 inch in each direction, larger than the base plate. Now that's to account for the difference between the collar and the router bit that I'm using. A couple adjustments and we'll be ready to make the rabbet. All right, let's see how it fits. That's good, nice and flush. Now I'll remove the template and wrap the top. All right, now I still have a couple more things to do to the top, but we'll set it aside to dry and start working on the fence. The fence system is made up of plywood and hardwood. It needs to be fully adjustable forward and back. It has to go back far enough so that I can easily remove the router without taking off the fence. I have sliding hardwood pieces. Now here's the fence all laid out, and the first thing I want to do is remove a portion of the top edge with the circular saw and the jigsaw. Now to make the slots for the adjustable hardwood pieces of the fence, I'm using the router bit in my drill press and an adjustable clamp as a guide. Now I've switched to a 3/4 inch Forstner bit that I'm using to rough out a couple square holes for an auxiliary fence. Okay. Now this part of the dust collector is nothing more than 3 pieces of wood that form a box, and I'm going to cap it off with a piece of plexi. By using a countersink, I can make a recess so that the screw head will be flush. Now I've set my miter gauge at about 7 degrees, and that should take care of the bevel. And a couple holes for the hold downs for the extra fence. Now a little bit of a recess for the hold down bolt, so that that's what this auxiliary fence is all about. It's another piece of hardwood that can be adjusted in and out. It doesn't go side to side, but if you were joining something, you would run your wood through on this side to a spiral cutting bit, and you'd move this out the amount of material you're removing so that it's supported all the way through. On the back, there are a couple brackets that go through the square holes I made. Those are next. As for the router itself, I like to use a 3-horse or better, because we're going to be using some good-sized router bits. On the underside of the top, there are 4 corner blocks that register the top to the base. Now this piece of hardwood within that holds the panel in place. I'll just let that go through, tap it flush, and I'll trim it to length after the epoxy sets. Now to hold the glass panel in place, I'm also going to use some epoxy. Just place a little bit in the groove.